All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and last night we took a big break from talking about any quarterbacks at all. I updated y'all on all of the top 30 visits that the Washington Commanders had in, and we did a breakdown on all of the different position groups that they're potentially targeting. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check that out. But we're right back to the quarterbacks. Most notably, we're here to talk about the Washington Commanders draft predictions from the top draft analysts, top media members, top networks, as you can see behind me and those guys. So we're going to talk about this number 2 pick Civil War. We're going to give people's predictions for Drake Maye going to the Commanders, and we're going to explain why. We're going to give people's predictions for Jayden Daniels going to the Commanders. Don't forget JJ McCarthy. I'm going to update y'all on some betting odds, and we also have more predictions as well. Like, it seems like the Washington Commanders may really have some fire where there's smoke when it comes to this trading back up into the first round for a tackle. Seems very likely. More than one person says or predicts that we will do that. So we're going to dive into all that and more. But before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get a notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned because I'm keeping y'all updated on everything Commanders. You know it's draft week. You know this is when I feast, man. I'm super excited. Of course, I will be live streaming the entire, at least minimum, first 5 rounds of the draft. I'm a Commanders fan, but I care about what every team is doing. So I'm going to predict every pick. I'm going to analyze every pick of the draft, at least going through the first 5 rounds. So make sure you pull up for those live streams. Be on the lookout because I have 2 more mock drafts I'm working on. I'm working on one of what I would want to do, my final what I want to do mock draft, and then I also have a final predictive mock draft, what I think the Commanders will end up doing, which is quite different from what I think they should do. So make sure you stay tuned for all of that. And I'm also working on a call-in show live stream to come out before the draft on Thursday, so stay tuned for that. And instead of wasting more of y'all time, let's go ahead and get to this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. And to be fair, we're going to start with Drake Maye. We're going to give him the first punch because it's not looking too great in Drake Maye's corner right now. When we're taking a look at the overall predictions that's going down, and especially where the predictions are coming from, even though Drake Maye has some pretty trustworthy sources on his end as well. We're going to get there. So we're going to give Drake Maye the first punch here. Then we're going to follow it by Jayden Daniels, and then we're going to go to the JJ McCarthy predictions. Then we're going to get to the betting odds, and then we're going to get to more predictions that don't include the second overall pick, most notably trading back up into the first for a left tackle. So let's start with Drake Maye. First of all, former Commanders advisor, whom played a role in helping owner Josh Harris find general manager Adam Peters, who's running the whole show, is very confident that Drake Maye will be the pick. This is Rick Spielman, former Vikings general manager. And again, he was part of the advisory crew along with Bob Myers, the guy that built the Warriors dynasty over there, the Golden State Warriors, as far as finding Adam Peters and hiring him, who again will lead the show. But we got to remember that Spielman was involved only in the search for a new GM, not involved in the college scouting process at all. But the GM is Adam Peters, so it keeps going back and forth on the legitimacy of this prediction because, granted, Rick Spielman has nothing to do with the scouting department, but if anybody knows Rick Spielman well, it's the guy that helped hire him. And the guy that I believe had one of the strongest connections to him to help recruit him over here to the Commanders. And also, then you have Daniel Jeremiah on top of that. He said the NFL coaches are overwhelmingly convinced that the Commanders will take Jayden Daniels at number 2, but that he's personally leaning towards Drake Maye. And he emphasized how Adam Peters loves to keep things suspenseful, and basically that Daniel Jeremiah knows how Adam Peters thinks and operates, and that would be his prediction if he knows Adam Peters as well as he thinks he does. And again, he also notes that he's known Adam Peters for a long time and believes that Maye fits what Peters and Dan Quinn are looking for right now. And again, that's based on knowledge of knowing Adam Peters personally and his reputation. Moving on, you also have an AFC scout that predicts the Commanders will take Drake Maye over Jayden Daniels. And the reasoning is pretty interesting. So, number 2, Washington Commanders is like a whole article of predictions from scouts. And then it says, here's the first surprise of the mini mock, with our scout assigned to the number 2 overall pick opting for Maye over LSU's Jayden Daniels. Maye is number 9 on my board, while Daniels is number 5 overall. Maye has more upside, said the scout. I question Daniels' ability to play in condensed spaces. Another consideration for the scout making the pick, Maye's ability to make throws with pressure in his face and absorb the impact of free pass rushers in the North Carolina passing game. He threw 10 touchdown passes, tied for 7th in the nation when pressured in 2023, which is a weird stat to point out because Jayden Daniels was by far statistically the best quarterback against the blitz when you look at stats, but it is what it is. And then, of course, Maye, at 6'4", 223 pounds, is often compared to Justin Herbert, and his vertical passing ability would no doubt fit well with wide receivers Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson in Washington. Then you have Pro Football Talk, who is literally ran by Mike Florio, the Commanders hater himself. He said, quote, the situation is prompting speculation in league circles that Daniels might not want to play for the Commanders. Even before this morning, and this was back in April 18th, some were thinking that the Commanders ultimately will not even want to take Jayden Daniels in the first place. And again, that's coming from Mike Florio, so who knows how trustworthy that source is at all. And so if we're really going to sit back and pay attention, I think it's noteworthy that the Rick Spielman and Daniel Jeremiah sources are in Drake Maye's corner, because Rick Spielman, again, helped hire Adam Peters and has said multiple times that he believes Drake Maye will be the pick. And then Daniel Jeremiah, knowing Adam Peters and his long history, thinks that Drake Maye will be the pick as well. And it seems that people who are the closest to Adam Peters and may have talked to him the most, not even just this offseason in general, but like really if you just take a step back and who knows him the best, even going back to his years with the 49ers, those guys are predicting him to take Drake Maye. That's really interesting. Now we're on to Jayden Daniels. And again, this is the reason why I gave Drake Maye the first punch, because Jayden Daniels' sources come from everywhere. There's so many of them. First of all, you have Peter Schrager of Good Morning Football, who I believe is a Commanders fan, because he's always talking about us in a very high light. Even when other people are doubting us, he's still trying to always show his love. So I'm assuming he's at least somewhat of a Commanders fan. And he said that he believes the Commanders are drafting LSU quarterback Jayden Daniels at number 2 overall. He said, quote, just from a lot of intel around the league and inside that building, I want to say I feel confident saying Daniels over Maye at this point, and this was 9 days out, April 16th. So that's really interesting. He's not just saying what he thinks they should do. He's saying based on the intel that he's received from around the league and inside of the building, he's confident that Jayden Daniels will be the pick. That's really interesting. And then you also have ESPN's Mel Kiper saying it over and over again for the past few months that Jayden Daniels will be the pick and also should be the pick. He's just a Jayden Daniels fan, but he's been also saying, especially recently, like with the utmost confidence, that Jayden Daniels will be the pick to the Washington Commanders. So there goes 2 sources already. And then the guys who have the most accurate inside scoops with everything Washington is doing with the top 30 visits, as in Albert Breer, because remember the top 30 visit chaos, all of the reports we were getting left and right were just all misinformation, completely just false reports and things like that, just rumors and things. And the guy that it was like the quickest on to what the Commanders were actually doing was Albert Breer. And he said, quote, there are people in that building who don't know what AP and Dan Quinn are thinking on the number 2 overall pick, but he also said that he still thinks that the Commanders are taking Jayden Daniels based on all of the information that he has at his disposal. Then you also have ESPN's Jordan Reed, who prefers Drake Maye. This is another one of those guys that likes Drake Maye more than Jayden Daniels. And he said, quote, I believe Dan Quinn wants to hit the ground running as fast as possible. Jayden Daniels is without the question the better player right now. If you're looking for somebody in the short term who is going to get you off and running like Dan Quinn and Adam Peters want to do, Daniels is going to be that kind of guy, unquote. And that's really interesting because he made it sound like it's obvious that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters want to go ahead and be competitive this year. I'm not exactly sure if that's still up in the air or not yet. Jordan Reed is saying it with confidence that, yeah, these guys want to win right now. Maybe not necessarily be Super Bowl contenders, but they do want to at the very least be competitive and maybe try to at least make a playoff run in the very first season. So Jayden Daniels is more than likely to pick because of his higher floor. That's Jordan Reed's logic. And then moving on to the next prediction, you also have Brian Baldinger, who said what he would do with the second overall pick. He said, quote, "I would take Jayden. I think there's a place for Jayden Daniels in this league," unquote. He said that he thinks that he would be a great fit with Cliff Kingsbury and that the pairing would work out very well. Then moving on to the next source as well, you also have draft analyst Ryan Wilson of CBS on what he thinks the Washington Commanders will do with the second overall pick. He said, "I think they'll take Jayden Daniels." Quote, "Dan Quinn's a defensive guy, and if you're asking Quinn who you don't want to face when game planning against a quarterback, Daniels checks a lot of those boxes. I've talked to scouts that describe him this way. He demoralizes defenses," unquote. So that's another source. And then you have the Gojo and Golick show, and Golick asked Jason Fitz, quote, "It was Drake May, and then it changed to Jayden Daniels. Who do you think is going to be, and who do you think it should be?" unquote. Jason Fitz answered, "I think it should be Jayden Daniels, and I think it's going to be Jayden Daniels." So there goes another source right there from the Gojo and Golick show. And then even though he's talked about why the Commanders will take Jayden Daniels second overall, Ryan Wilson also noted though, quote, "I've heard that Jayden Daniels is the guy from one source, and I've heard from another source that there has not been a decision made yet as to who the number 2 pick will actually end up being in that building." I just wanted to note that as well. And then the big guy himself, Adam Schefter, put out an article on ESPN covering a lot of draft topics, like a lot of them. And as far as the Commanders are concerned, with the number 2 overall pick specifically, he said Heisman Trophy winning quarterback Jayden Daniels from LSU knows he's entering the draft, not free agency, which is why he is ready to accept wherever he is selected and attempt to become the face of that franchise. While Daniels would have liked more face time with the Commanders official during his visit last week, which included 3 of the other top quarterbacks in the class, the signs continue to point to Washington taking him second overall. He continues to say the Commanders have been highly impressed with Daniels' abilities, and they are not alone. One NFL head coach whose team is not in the quarterback market said he would actually take Jayden Daniels over Caleb Williams of USC, who is expected to be drafted number 1 overall by the Chicago Bears. He said, quote, "It's a no-brainer to me. Jayden looks like the best guy in this draft," unquote. And then another head coach compared Daniels to Baltimore quarterback Lamar Jackson. Quote, "If you pick Daniels, you're getting Lamar 2.0, but he's further along as a passer than Lamar was when he came out," unquote, the coach said. Now, I've already debunked the whole, as much as a Jayden Daniels fan as I am, and I would love to have either of the quarterbacks, but I prefer Jayden Daniels. I still don't like the comp to Lamar Jackson because he's not that fast. He's very fast, but he's not that quick, that agile, that fast. It's definitely a different level of speed and agility when it comes to Lamar Jackson. But yes, he is the better passer coming out of college than Lamar Jackson was when he was coming out of college. And then also, he finishes the article by saying Washington still is going through its process, but Daniels is the favorite to be its pick as of right now. Again, that's coming from Adam Schefter himself. And lastly, on the Jayden Daniels side, just in case if you don't trust Adam Schefter, who broke the whole internet when he said that the Commanders were not going to get Ben Johnson and Dan Quinn was not going to the Seattle Seahawks, when most people believed that it was pretty much a lock. Even if you don't believe that guy, now you also have the guy that's as close to the Commanders as you can possibly get as reporters go in John Keim. He just said on the Kevin Sheehan podcast just 2 days ago, or was it yesterday, sometime very recently, that his, quote, best guess would still be Jayden Daniels. "I'm sorry to all of the people who want Drake May. It's not my decision," unquote. And I think that's really interesting because he's letting you know that he has no bias either way. He has no preference, no nothing. But based off of everything that he's heard, that he knows from being one of the reporters closest to the Commanders as possible, it seems like Drake May will end up being the pick. And he even went on to continue to say that he's heard that J.J. McCarthy is ahead of Drake May on the Commanders board, and signs continue to point towards Jayden Daniels being the guy. But if it's not Jayden Daniels, it would probably be J.J. McCarthy before Drake May. That is very interesting. And shouts out to @DCZ Wall, because I completely agree with him when he says that when Com speaks, you should listen, because he just doesn't say stuff without having a good idea about it. And I've been saying this for a while now. Like, when it comes to like John Com and Nikki Javala, they're not one of those reporters that prefers to be as quick as possible. Their goal is to be as correct as possible. They're not one of the guys that will like hear a rumor and immediately go out to report on it and things like that. Those guys only speak on what they have full confidence in. And if John Com is predicting that Jayden Daniels will be the pick, and he even says that JJ McCarthy is second on their board and Drake Maye is third, you better listen. And I know a lot of Commanders fans that normally trust John Com, since he's saying that Jayden Daniels will be the pick instead of Drake Maye. Now a lot of people are about to start going against John Com just simply because of his prediction. But trust him just like you trusted him a few months ago. You should trust him now. But we'll see. Who knows? Maybe Adam Peters is feeding them false information. The Commanders organization as a whole is feeding John Com false information because they know that he is a reporter, and they know that he'll go out there and say what they tell him, and then maybe they want Drake Maye all along. Who knows? But speaking of JJ McCarthy, like I already said, John Com said that he's heard that JJ McCarthy is higher on the Commanders board than even Drake Maye is right now. And then also, JJ McCarthy's odds to go number 2 overall are moving drastically recently. Like, as of yesterday, he went from 20-1 to 17-1, and now he's 11-1. According to FD Sportsbook. Now, again, I've already done a whole spill, a whole rant in another video from like yesterday or a couple of days ago, breaking down why these betting odds guys do not just have some inside information that none of us have as well. So it's not like you should really believe in these betting odds that much, but it is interesting. Maybe there's some information that they're hearing out there. Maybe something's going on to where they're like, hey, actually JJ McCarthy is quite likely to go. And to better explain why JJ McCarthy could even possibly be above Drake Maye on their big board right now, Chris Cooley brings up a great point that I agree with. And Chris Cooley is a big Drake Maye fan. He prefers Drake Maye over everybody else right now. He said, every year you can see the difference between a coach and a GM. Coaches want players who will make an immediate impact, while GMs will opt for the developmental prospect far more often than a coach. And so maybe Adam Peters is being way more collaborative than even I expected. Like, maybe he respects and trusts Dan Quinn enough to allow him to have more say in this pick than I originally assumed at the beginning of this process. Because, yeah, coaches typically have a shorter lifespan than GM, so they're gonna prefer to get the guy that we can win right now to keep my job going. I don't want to get fired, let's win right now. Whereas the GM, their job is long-term success. Can I bring you a Super Bowl? First and foremost, GMs are way less likely to get fired when a team doesn't have a hot start than a head coach. Sometimes, a lot of the time actually, it may not even be the head coach's fault why a team is losing, and he'll just get fired because they'll just throw him under the bus. They just need a scapegoat. They just need a guy to blame and be like, okay, we fired that guy, we're bringing in a different guy to bring a different culture, a different viewpoint, even though it was never the head coach's fault in the first place. So I can see why head coaches would prefer the higher ceiling guy. But again, like I've already argued, that I see that Drake Maye has the higher arm ceiling, but I think overall ceiling, Jayden Daniels still has the higher ceiling as well, just because of his ability to use his legs. I think Drake Maye's athleticism and mobility is drastically underrated by a lot of people that prefer Jayden Daniels to other quarterbacks. But I still feel like Jayden Daniels' legs actually gives him one of the highest ceilings of this draft class. But I also would agree that he's more day one ready as well. So that's why I prefer Jayden Daniels. But again, I'm very happy either way. As long as it's Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye, I personally just don't prefer JJ McCarthy. But moving on, and now for the betting odds update between Jayden and Maye. Now, this is as of a couple of days ago, but they definitely shifted, because now on FanDuel, Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels are dead even neck and neck at negative 115 odds. Bovada has Jayden Daniels at negative 140, Drake Maye at negative 130. It's not that big of a difference. And then MGM has Jayden Daniels negative 130 and Drake Maye plus 100. But what changed? Because there was a big gap between Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye as of just like a week ago. Suddenly now, as of a couple of days ago, things have drastically changed. So it seems like Drake Maye has closed the gap mightily between him and Jayden Daniels and even surpassed him on some betting boards. And Burgundy Blog brings up a great point. Daniels' agent's emotional twittering wasn't the only thing that immediately preceded the shift in the betting lines. The prospects also actually visited. Let's not forget that. So you never know. Even outside of the Jayden Daniels drama with the agent, maybe Drake Maye actually just had the best visit out of the top quarterbacks that were all there at the same time. But also, don't forget, shouts out to JP Finley for pointing this out. Worth pointing out, odds makers were all over the place about CJ Stroud going second last year until about like the night before the draft. Nobody knows anything, just like how Adam Peters likes it and wants it to be. Also, less than a year ago, remember, Will Levis became the betting favorite to be selected second in the NFL draft just over the weekend. So all of the things that are going on like right now, like a few days leading up into the draft, that may be the lying season at its peak, like in its prime. So maybe you should believe things that happened over a week ago more than what's happening in this week. Who knows? Just based off of history, really more so just specifically a small sample size of last year, the rumors got its wildest and most incorrect just a few days before the draft, like the weekend before the draft especially. And that's basically where we are right now, just going into Monday. And most of the reporting I'm giving you from this video came from this past weekend. And also, before we get up out of here, we also have some other predictions for the Commanders that don't have anything to deal with the second overall pick, which has me very excited. Let's get away from the quarterback just for a little bit. First up, NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah said he expects the Commanders to jump up to address offensive line, particularly because they have the 36th and 40th overall picks in the second round. Not that he predicts, not that he thinks they should. He said he expects the Commanders to trade up in that first round, trade back up into the first round to address left tackle. And then also ESPN's Jordan Reed thinks the same exact thing. He said, as far as what the Commanders will do to trade into the first round to draft an offensive tackle, if they should, if they shouldn't, he said, quote, "I think this is the worst kept secret in the draft right now. Is the Commanders trading up from 36 or 40 to get an offensive tackle. It just makes too much sense for them to trade up and take advantage of this deep offensive line class. I just don't see Adam Peters having so many picks and just waiting to 36 and 40 for one of those guys to fall to him," unquote. And I've already broken down the logic of this. First of all, you prefer to have that fifth-year option on a tackle, taking them higher, like taking them in within the first round rather than early second. That fifth-year option is big time, man. And then also, of course, the higher you take a tackle, the more assumed talent they have, because there's a reason they went in the first round rather than the early second. So that's there. And then also, we have so many picks, and I've already reported this in another video, but a lot of scouts and NFL GMs and NFL executives, football guys, believe there's a huge drop off in talent after the third round in pretty much every position group except for wide receiver, because this is like one of the deepest classes ever. So really, when you're looking at this draft right now, the second and third round picks have more value to them this draft than most other drafts, just in general. Like a second round pick value wise should be charted with higher points than in a typical normal draft, third round pick as well. So this is like the perfect storm for the Commanders to take their more highly valued second or third round picks, a combination of the two, to package them together and trade back up into the first round, because this is the draft where teams value second and third round picks more than most other drafts. So it's just literally the perfect storm for the Commanders. And then again, Jordan Reed emphasized that this offensive lines class is pretty deep, and you can still, even after the first 2 or 3 are taken, still get a really good starting left tackle somewhere in the middle of the first round if you really, really want to. And again, on top of all of that, we have 6 top 100 picks right now. I believe we're the only team in the NFL with that many picks in the first 3 rounds. We have 1 first one, which is going to be used on quarterback, of course, but then we have 2 seconds and 3 thirds. I mean, we should easily be able to put together a nice little package to move up to like the late teens or early 20s to get a starting left tackle. You know I'm rooting for it to be Amarius Mims, but there are a lot of options out there. Also, Jordan Reed tweeted himself After Washington picks quarterback at number 2, they'll have 5 more picks in the top 100. I have a hard time seeing Adam Peters waiting for one of those offensive tackles to potentially fall to number 36 or 40th overall, which further backs my point that I was bringing up. And so now that's an analyst from both NFL Network and ESPN both saying that they feel like the Commanders will trade back up until the first for a starting left tackle. Not even that they should, but they will. Daniel Jeremiah said he expects it, and Jordan Reed said that it's one of the worst kept secrets in the NFL right now. That's crazy. So maybe there's some real fire where there's smoke right now, and or maybe it's just simply the right thing to do. Like, even if Daniel Jeremiah and Jordan Reed have no real actual information from what Adam Peters is thinking, maybe it's just literally the right thing to do, and Adam Peters will end up doing it because it's just so obvious that it makes too much sense to not trade up for a tackle right now. And then also, lastly, Lance Zierlein tweeted, "I'll be pretty shocked if either Arizona or Washington, or frankly both, aren't moving some of their enormous stockpiles of draft capital and making a move back into the first round. I understand Arizona has 2 picks in 1, but I think it's likely that they package another pick and upgrade that 27th pick." And so he also again threw the Commanders in there as well. So there goes 3 completely different sources all saying that they expect, they assume, and they would be surprised that, well, they wouldn't be surprised really if the Commanders move back up into that first round to get a left tackle. So it seems like there's real momentum there. That's what I'm hoping happens. I'm almost also even predicting that will happen. Let's go for hey man, we walk away with a starting quarterback and a starting left tackle after the first round of the draft. We won, in my opinion. We're good to go. I'm super excited because we already know Adam Peters can take those late round picks, whatever we have left, and find Pro Bowlers and all pros left and right. He's done it for the 49ers several times. He's done it over the course of several drafts. I'm expecting him to do the same thing for us. So if you can go and get an elite quarterback and an elite left tackle, have them on rookie deals with 5th-year options, that's a big Super Bowl window right there, because now 2 of the top 3 highest paid position groups in the entire sport are now on rookie deals, and you can spend all of the rest of your cap space making sure you have top tier players at other positions. So hey man, I love that. And then lastly, before we get up out of here, my prediction for after the draft is for us to go ahead and get Justin Simmons and just go. I mean, he's still out there. Why not? I already told y'all weeks ago that we reached a point in free agency where we're not going to sign any more big names. If we do get a Justin Simmons, it will be after the draft. That's my last, and I'm going to say it's not necessarily like a super realistic prediction, but it just makes too much sense. It's a match made in heaven. We still have the 2nd most cap space in the NFL. Justin Simmons wants to go to a really good defense with a great scheme. He's the perfect fit. Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. are the takeaway kings in the NFL over the past 3 years, leading the NFL in takeaways as a defense. And Justin Simmons leads the NFL in interceptions since he was drafted in 2016 by who? Adam Peters, when he was working with the Denver Broncos as their top draft guy. So it just makes too much sense. We have the money. He probably wants money. He wants to go to a defense that's already really good. We already have all of these veterans and young great talents all up and down the defense right now. I'm super excited. He would be that last missing piece to take us over the top. So that's my last prediction right there. Remember, we signed Josh Norman, I believe, after the draft. So you never know. There's still a chance that we can make a big splash after the draft. Still a lot of notable names out there. Justin Simmons is the one I want by far the most. So I hope that happens. I'm predicting that it will happen because I'm more so speaking it into existence, but I don't have any inside information on that. I'm just connecting the dots. It just makes too much sense on both sides. Let's go make that happen. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Do not leave this video without leaving a like. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me, and it's free for y'all, so I really appreciate that. And again, like I said, stay tuned because I'm coming to y'all. I mean, I'm getting started early today, so we're getting this video out maybe by like 1 p.m. We're gonna have another one by like 6 p.m. Then we're gonna have another one at night, and it's probably one of those probably gonna be a film session, so stay tuned for that. I'm really excited. Again, I'm trying to get to the point where I'm doing like 2-3 videos a day for y'all, not only leading up to the draft but going through the draft, because I'm gonna have to do breakdowns of every player that we end up drafting, undrafted free agents as well, keeping y'all updated on that. I'm gonna have to do film sessions later on. At first, I'm just gonna do my general breakdowns, weaknesses, and strengths of everybody that we draft. But then after that, like weeks down the line, maybe starting earlier than I did last year. I'm gonna start doing film sessions for each draft pick as well. So you're getting at least 2 videos for each guy that we draft. Just the first initial thoughts of the pick and where we drafted them, how they fit the scheme, and then we're gonna do like an actual all 22 film session on each player as well. So stay tuned. I have y'all covered for everything in the draft. Any rumors, any reports, anything with Adam Peters speaking directly. I did a whole breakdown of Adam Peters and Lance Newmark's press conference from a couple of days ago. So I got y'all your one-stop shop for everything Commanders. I really appreciate y'all. Stay tuned. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about these predictions. Which sources do you trust the most? Do you trust the majority in Jayden Daniels' corner with also the trustworthy Adam Peters and John Keim on that side? Or do you trust Daniel Jeremiah and Rick Spielman with them knowing Adam Peters a little bit better than all of the other sources in the Drake May corner? Or do you trust the JJ McCarthy information? Do you trust the betting lines? And also, how do you feel about the potential trade up into the first round that a lot of draft analysts are out there predicting for the Commanders so we can get a tackle? Let me know how you feel about all of those predictions, and really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later with another video in like a couple of hours. I'm out.